I just wanted to touch on, and you were speaking as you're finishing off, right? You studied for 15 years.
Yeah. Give or take 15
years. Yeah. And what actually kept you, I don't want to make it sound bad because, I'm a Muslim, we should have Islam in our hearts naturally, right? But what actually kept you motivated? Because it could be hard for someone to stay motivated for 15 years, in hopes to become an Imam. What was it for you?
I think it was a combination of things. Probably like family would be one. My father was always very much involved in the sense that he'd always be keeping up with my progress, making sure that I'm not slipping, very much like make sure from the academic point of view, you're on point. So it was family kept me motivated. It was the colleagues, the friend circle that you have, because ultimately, here's the thing, right? If I'm studying, but then my friends are doing something completely different, right? And I'm in their circle and I'm spending time with them, it's just not gonna, that doesn't go together because they're talking about something else, right? So as the friends I was studying with, we literally became like companions in the sense that we would eat together, we would travel together, we would study together. So it was that, and I think it was just personally like it's when you want to achieve something, for me it was like when I was younger, it was I want to memorize the Quran. I don't know why, it was just something in me. There was that desire, I want to memorize the Quran. And from what I've been told, like obviously, as you know, that originally I'm from Devon, right? That's where I grew up, and that's where I was born and stuff. So apparently, like I am the first person in like the history of Devon who's born there to become a Hafiz of the Quran.
Is it?
Apparently in that region. So that's what I've been told, because obviously I know who the first Muslim was. He's very old now. So they've kept a track of these things going back many years. So, but it wasn't that. It wasn't because I wanted to be known as like a Hafiz or the first person.
Something you found out after.
It's something I just really want. Yeah, I found that out after, but it's something I really wanted to do. And then eventually it was, okay, now that I've memorized the Quran, I really want to know the meaning of it. Because, when you memorize it, it's just like robot parrot mode almost. You're just like reading from beginning to end. I can read, I can lead prayers, I can recite it, but you have no idea because Arabic is not my first language. Yeah. So I had no idea what it meant. So then my next goal was, I want to learn what the meaning of this is. But that's a much more difficult task than it was to memorize, because now you've got to learn a new language, and then you've got to go into because remember, the other thing is, right, just because you know Arabic, that doesn't mean you know the meaning of the Quran. This is a misconception. People think, oh, you're an Arab, you know Arabic, so therefore you must know what the meaning of the Quran. The Quran is not like any other Arabic. And within the Quran, there's a context behind the verses. So just because you can translate it doesn't mean you actually know what the Quran is trying to say, what the message is. And this is why nowadays Islam is under so much fire, because you can take a verse of the Quran and quote it and be like, oh, look, this is what Muslims believe. It seems like this like crazy, violent verse or something, right? But it's completely taken out of context. That's why not only do you have to learn the language and master the language, you've got to learn the context and the background and all of that. So that takes a long time.
Would you be able to give me an example of that? Like, for example, something that you may have seen on social media of a Quran verse that had been taken out of context?
So it depends how controversial you want to get, but let's talk about let's talk about the standard one, which is like the verses of violence.
Yeah.
There's verses of violence, right? So there's a lot of like, for example, right wing, right? Those who really want to attack Islam, they use certain verses where, oh, look, it says that, there's one common one, which is, like God tells them, the believers in the Quran, do not befriend the Jews and the Christians. So some people pick out that verse and they're like, this is anti-Semitic. Or, oh, look, Muslims, they just keep themselves to themselves. The Quran says to stay away from non-Muslims, right? Well, there's actually one which says literally, wherever you find them, kill them. فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ. Oh, look at that. So, but the funny thing is, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, even if you haven't studied Islam, right? If that was really the case, and that's what the Quran was calling us to do, then that's what would have been happening left, right, and center. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what would have been happening. But obviously, there's a context. Now, some of those verses were revealed at a time when there was an actual war taking place between the Muslims and the other side. And therefore, some of those verses, they would say in that context, when you're at war, then of course, when you're at war, it's not going to say, hug your brother or your sister. I mean, you're at war, you're defending your land, they're coming and attacking you. You gotta fight back, you gotta strike back, right? 100%. But then within that same passage, if you just read the next verse as an example, the one that they don't quote, it will literally say, but if there's a peace agreement between you, then you have to honor that agreement. Yep. All of a sudden, do you see, that's in context now. That's in the context of war. It's true, right? If they surrender, if the other side surrenders, or they say, we want to enter into peace negotiations, you can't be like, no, we're going to kill you now, right? So that's like a classic example. The one where it says you don't befriend Jews and Christians and so on, right? There's a context behind that. Again, you could add the war one in there, right? When you're at war one, from a political point of view, if there's something between you, right? There's war and disagreements and things like that. And from the other hand, it's like some of those verses are talking about don't befriend them to such a level where you're actually following their religion, right? Where you're compromising on your own religion and you're following theirs. So when you put some of these verses into context, you're like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad, because every previous scripture, whether it's the Bible or other scriptures, right, they have the same kind of verses. Every previous scripture has that, right? So are you going to pick out and say, well, Christianity is a religion?
But the difference is, the Quran hasn't been changed at all.
Exactly.
Over time, changed. Bible may have been changed.
And the fact, like I mentioned that I memorized the Quran, right? There's millions of other people like me who have memorized the Quran. That's a means of preserving it. So even if someone did try to, change a few verses, you've got like literally millions of Muslims out there.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've memorized it word for word, letter for letter. You can't hold to.
Yeah.
Right. So it's pretty crazy. So yeah, that's just some examples of some verses. There's loads of other verses out there which you can, if you isolate and take out of context, it seems bad. It seems negative. It seems like Muslims are, being taught the wrong thing. But when you understand the context and why it was revealed and at the time that it was revealed, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, makes sense.
Okay, so like I said in the beginning of this podcast, there may be people who are watching this right now who may not be Muslims, but they might be interested in Islam. They might have seen the podcast that I've done with Andrew Tate and seen me give him a Quran and then try to research more into Islam.
Yeah.
So it's slowly coming towards him. I've seen a video of a guy on TikTok recently who's been following the Ramadan with his friends, his Muslim friends, and he's relating and comparing things to what Christians believe, and he's now believed that Jesus is not the Son of God anymore. So he's now said that Islam is the prophet. Anyway, but the point being is the meaning of the Quran. How would you summarize it to people, someone who's watching this right now who may not be a Muslim? What is it? What is the Quran?